Hey, I'm Becky and this video is on increasing your conversion rate in a way that will consistently produce results. So this is not a hack that's going to be obsolete in a couple years. Don't know what I'm talking about? You can take a look at the impact of those countdown timers and the somewhat fake inventory pieces that you see now that create a false sense of urgency. People are starting to catch on to these things and it's starting to actually decrease conversion rate because they get annoyed. So this is not a hack. This is the way that expert marketers and optimizers consistently create high-performing sites. And it's a pretty easy concept. Basically, you have to talk to your visitors, but you want to know how to interview them in the right way so that you're not just confirming what you already know, you're actually finding new bits of information that you wouldn't think to look for. So, we want to talk about exploratory interviews versus leading interviews. Leading interviews happen when you ask people things like, should I create this new product? People generally want to help you out and they want to be agreeable, so they say yes. Or they really want to help you out and they think they know better, so they get critical in an area where they're not experts. So you're either going to get people telling you that they would buy your product when they absolutely in a million years would not, or they're going to be nitpicking through it when in reality they wouldn't actually care, and that's inconsistent with their behavior. I see this happen all the time. So instead, you're going to want to sit down and you want to get them talking. The more they're talking, the better the interview is going. You don't want to talk much at all, you just want to listen. In order to do that, you want to use what and how questions versus why or yes/no questions. So you want to look at big sweeping questions like, what has your buying experience been like? Or what brought you to look for this type of product? That way you can get them talking about that whole experience and they can tell you about issues that they may have run into that you wouldn't have expected. They might tell you how they came to your product in a way that you wouldn't have thought to ask about. These are exploratory interviews where you're just taking a whole lot of notes and you're listening to somebody talk about what they've experienced as opposed to trying to give you advice. Once you get them out of that advice-giving concept and context, you're going to actually get really useful information as opposed to people telling you what they think they want as opposed to what they actually want and what they would actually respond to. So also, don't box them in. Don't ask them questions like, is this price too high, or would you pay $5 for this? That's very narrowing, and they're also going to give you a response that you probably think you already know the answer to. Focus on keeping them broad. Okay, and then once you've got all of those notes from these interviews, you're going to want to take it and you're going to want to start bullet pointing it out and breaking it up and grouping them from all of these interviews into different themes. So for instance, maybe somebody makes the same point in 5 different interviews or a similar point. You're going to want to group that into a theme. And then once you start seeing consistent themes, especially if they're very repeated or if it's an area that you're really interested in, you're like, hey, I didn't think about that, I want to look into that further. You can create a hypothesis around that theme. Once you take that hypothesis, you're going to be able to validate it using surveys. Again, you don't want to make these surveys, or if you're using polls, surveys, polls, whatever, you don't want to make them leading. You again want to ask very open questions, but you want to make them a little less open. So you don't want to say, now, what was your shopping experience like? Instead, you're going to want to ask something like, how long was your buying decision? Or if they haven't finished buying, how much longer do you think you're going to take to make a decision? You don't want to ask things, again, like, would you pay $5 for this? Or, why didn't you buy this? And then pick from a list of drop-down. You're going to want to make sure that you're getting answers that are real as opposed to kind of shoehorning people into a box that you already know exists. I see that happen a lot on surveys, particularly around why didn't you buy, and then pick from a list of 5 drop-downs, and people just kind of, they generally go towards these ones because you're forcing them, and then you've got information that you already knew and is not very useful, because if you already knew it and you haven't fixed it, I'm guessing you can't, right? Okay, now, you've got the hypothesis validated. Now you're going to translate this into how you're writing your copy, how you're positioning your product, and some of the imagery that you're going to be using. Once you've translated this hypothesis into your actual sales materials, you can take it and you can again validate it through their behavior, because you've already validated it through a survey, but that's not quite good enough. You want to make sure their behavior matches what they're saying and what they're answering. So you can either do a split test, or if you don't have enough traffic, you're going to want to take a look at places like usertesting.com that allow you to do preference tests and that allow you to do 5-second tests. And then once you've validated all of this, you're good to go. You're live. Keep iterating on that. Keep doing this process. This is going to be how you consistently increase your conversion rate, by learning new things about your visitors. Keep talking to them. Don't continue to assume that you know all of the answers, because that's how you close yourself off, you don't make good decisions, you don't learn new things, and you don't find new opportunities. Cool. All right. So I'm really excited to hear about how this works for you. If you have any questions, please drop them below in the comments. And if you're looking for how to translate all of your new findings into some new materials, I have a lot of great videos on writing your headline copy, writing your body copy, and designing your landing page. You can find all of those on my YouTube channel, so check it out.